Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your merienda. First of all, before we get started, there's a lot of hard-working people we need to recognize. First of all, I would like to introduce our Alfonso Delano officers. To please stand. We have Melody, President Melody Ibarra Sabaran, Melody, Vice President Elena Simon Barney, Elena. We have our treasurer, Angie Jamero, Secretary Maureen Munoz. Make sure. And then the ones that did a lot of work. When I say a lot of work, our planning committee have been working, shuffling back and forth all day with different tasks. Please give them a round of applause. The committee members, please stand. Thank you for all your hard work. Tour guides, program, speakers, social media, PR, buttons, T-shirts, setting up tables, setting up the vendors, keeping on task, fiscal responsibility, ads, sponsors. Thank you very much. I don't know what to say, but the reason why an organization is well run is because of the people that are in it and the volunteers.
Can I say something?
You can.
All right. I want a big round of applause for Arnold Morrison.
Yay. And then back there we got Leslie, who's been like monitoring.
He takes all the pictures and the videos.
Cool, Domi. Domi calls me Buladoy, which is Visayan for little boy, and only people that know me since I was a little kid tell me that. Okay, our next panel will share a variety of ways to tell our stories. Domi Tomate, Christian Paiz, and Johnny Itliong. I will share a brief bio on each of our speakers. Each will speak for 15 minutes, and we'll see how much remaining time we have. Yeah, he wants to take a selfie there with the audience.
Jesus.
I will now share raise your hands. Okay, Domi was born and raised in Delano, experienced the farm labor strike, and lived in the labor camps. Participated in Filipino organizations at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and one of the 4 founding members of the Filipino Cultural Exchange, and earned his degree in journalism, which is why he loves to write. In Delano's first weekend, he wrote the play The Rime of San Juan Rico. He was Delano's Philippine Weekend president and is currently a member of Fonz Delano's chapter and currently working on his memoirs entitled The Delano Flips. Christian, I get a great chance to talk and connect with him. He's an associate professor in ethnic studies at UC Berkeley. He recently published the book, which you got a chance, The Strikers Coachella, a rank and file history of the UFW, follows the life of Filipino and Mexican farm workers in the United Farm Worker Movement in Southern California, Coachella Valley. At Berkeley, he teaches Latinx studies, U.S. social movements, and interracial relations. But previously, which is I really love, he taught high school in the Coachella Valley Union School District. Yeah. And Johnny was born the same year as the Delano Grape strike. Remembers a lot from the strike era, and one of his phrases, my father's work was affected every single worker person in the United States. People needed to hear his story and realize that there was a Filipino hero. His story may inspire others, someone else. If he does, then his work's done. At this point, we'll have Domi speak, Christian, and then Johnny. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, so I pretty much know a lot of y'all here, so I'm not really. Step back. Can you hear me? We good? All right. So I think this is going to be a good time. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm not going to do a lot of talking about free flowing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read a part of my Young Boy, Do You Know the Words to That Song? I think there's about 6 copies left in the back. A lot of you have bought it, and of course you always ask me, please, can you write something nice? And I will. So I'm going to read this, and then we're going to have a really quick discussion about why I wrote it, because it's very important. It's very important to the lives of being a Filipino. Personally, I couldn't tell you how many did not marry, could not marry, choose not to marry. How many ended up in labor camps built from Depression era, discarded boxcar, not the best, but reasonably safe. Warm in the winter, cool in the summer, segregated. In exchange, they reported daily for work, living to provide without complaint, thankless, cheap labor. In Delano, there were many such camps for these forgotten manongs. At Lusage Farms, where I work, Manong Alejandro, who was one of 4 or 5 who shared the same name, a bachelor, unmarried since arriving in America in the late 1920s. I'm pretty sure he was in his mid-60s, built like Buddha, rotund but spry and nimble. His face was round with a nose that reminded me of W.C. Fields, hair thinning, close to being bald, eyes dark, penetrating yet calm and composed, with light, thin lips that chewed on an unlit cigar. Each day he would strike up a conversation with the question, "Young boy, do you know the words to that song?" His voice had a rasp, guttural and low with a thick Ilocano accent. Thick as it was, he was articulate and wise, each word filled with experience and wisdom. Okay. We'd have a conversation during work breaks, mostly when we shared a snack, a staple needed to get us through the day. Farm work was hard. It was steady and lengthy. Days reached over 100 degrees. It included other conditions, dust, sulfur, pollution, long hours of earning an honest day's pay. I admired him, as with the rest of the elders in the camp. It was nothing less than backbreaking, however. He knew the techniques and skills to work fast, efficiently, and with the least amount of effort. I was in my early teens, and he outpaced me despite my youth and vigor. During these breaks, Manong Alejandro would finally light up a smoke, his reliable Toscano, a foul-smelling cigar that resembled a dark, twisted rope clenched between his teeth as he puffed. He said it'd keep the flies and mosquitoes away. Because the tobacco was densely wrapped, it lasted no more than 3 puffs. The rest of the day, he kept vigil in his mouth, patiently waiting for a match or lighter to bring it back to life. He shared stories about his loves he should have had, both in the Philippines and in the States, how women were to be treated with respect and tender, loving care, smothered with poetry, song, and flowers. George told me that when my Auntie Tisay worked in one of the crews, he would serenade her with the following song, "Bésame, bésame mucho. Each time I cling to your kiss, I hear music divine. Oh, bésame, bésame mucho." His delivery was far from stellar, voice cracked and hoarse, sometimes in tune, sometimes not. A soulful a cappella underneath a shade of vines carried far, wide, and echoed. In the fields, no one talking, as if listening to a great tenor, with murmurs of approval from his fellow brothers, who shared a combination of years of wanting and needing, and how the tides of fate, laws, and racism denied them the decency of a relationship. Time stood still. Even the birds perched in reverence. I was touched by his performance, sanguine and melodious. It was a testament that tacitly demonstrated aspirations and dreams, promises that never came to be. The first time I heard him sing, I was sad and depressed, because I learned that Manongs like him had their fates sealed. With no way out, he sang his song as if the music, a painful testament, a metaphor for what he and his brothers endured. His story was one of many. My father, unlike him, and afforded the opportunity of meeting Mom when he was stationed in the Philippines. Others returned to lonely bunkhouses where their basics of eating, sleeping, and working were all but guaranteed. In return for this convenience, segregation left them emotionally destitute, emptied, and void. Meanwhile, under the canopy of vines and men and women earning wages enough to survive, and under the inclement of harsh weather, chemical smells mingled with the stench of mildew, farm dust, black widows, yellow jackets, snakes, and field mice. This was our small universe. It's what we did for a working wage of $1.05 an hour. I shared this with my good friend, Manong Alejandro. Several days after one of our talks, I noticed Manong was missing from work. I learned, sad to say, that he passed away the night before, apparently from years of an autoimmune disease that progressed to his heart. Never had I known his body rebelled, ached, and burned his joints, tortured him to unbearable and unspeakable pain. And not once did he tell of it, a small word of compliment, showing up every day in his work boots, khakis, long sleeve shirt, bandana around his neck, and a floppy hat over his head, ready to earn an honest day's pay. Perhaps there was a faint smell of Bengay to offset any joint or muscle pain. When I heard the news, immediately came to mind was his thick Filipino accent asking me, "Young boy, do you know the words to that song?" I didn't, and respectfully asked him to sing the lyrics, reminding me of the tormented soul that he and others shared, how they kept to themselves, the unforgettable heroes who hoped for a better life, compelling stories, and every one of them never to be told, blown away in the wind, forgotten forever. A medical diagnosis, disease, might have taken him down, but I knew differently. Subtle, deadly, final. What took him away was that of a broken heart, a small part of his physical self. He couldn't bear it anymore. It made me sad just to think about it. I knew as true and as pure as the wind that blew across the valley. He played his hand the best he could despite the stinking, lousy cards that were dealt to him. And I stretched my eyes across the sky. I wondered what Manong Alejandro's last thoughts were before he closed his eyes for the very last time after contributing so much of himself in this land of opportunity. After that day, I had a spiral notebook like this, 1968 or 69, and I wrote my feelings at that time. I wrote this book, I think it started maybe, 1995 or 2000, and what started it was that I found my notebook. And there's a saying that I wrote in some of these books. I said, the greatest thoughts are the ones you write down. And this is the message that I want to tell you, and I'm just going to call it quits after that. There were two types of Filipinos that were there when I was growing up. There were the types of Filipinos that raised families like us, okay? That we were able to sponsor more Filipinos, and they continued to grow until we became, if not one of the largest Asian group in the United States. But before that time, there were thousands and thousands of bachelor Filipinos who died in obscurity with no families to bury them, like Manong Alejandro. Thank you.
Thank you for that excerpt. Thank you so much. And the key thing is he journals. So a lot of you have these thoughts, journal, because down the road, when you put them together, they may form a book.
I think there's about 4 more books left outside if you guys want to get it. And money goes to funds.
Thank you, Domi. Christian,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. I'm going to put a timer, otherwise I'll talk forever. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really good to see you. It's really good to be here. I'm honored to have been invited. Thank you, Herb. Thank you to my co-panelists here, and thank you to the folks in Delano who have organized such a wonderful, beautiful event. I texted my partner saying how grateful I felt to be with you and to learn from you. My name is Christian Paiz. I'm a professor of ethnic studies at UC Berkeley. I've been there for 10 years now. I've gotten tenure, so I don't think they can fire me anytime soon, so I'll be there for a while. I grew up in the Coachella Valley. I'm the child of workers, of farm workers and just regular workers. Very proud member of the working class when I was a kid, but also someone who knew some of the pains that we go through in poverty. And so when I was a child and I was living in the Coachella Valley and my parents were making poverty and I was living in public housing, it became very apparent to me that all of my neighbors worked really, really hard and that every single one of us felt desperate, felt caged in, and felt that we had no one around us to be able to find a way out. I was a high school teacher, and it was that sense that brought me into writing this book. I wanted to write a story that my students would be able to read in their 20s, just around the time that we hit that first quarter-life crisis about when the revolution is going to come. And once we're starting to despair, I wanted to write to them and offer them a book that inspired them and that ultimately reminded them of the grace that has come before us. The book that I wrote, The Strikers of Coachella, is primarily on the Coachella Valley. It's a small desert. It's approximately 45 miles long, about 15 miles wide. It's really, really beautiful if you have money. And if you don't have money, it's a little less beautiful. It's a place that is very diverse. It has a small but thriving Filipino community. It has a thriving Black community, a gay community, a Mexican community, a white community, and a native Korea community too. In doing this book, there's a few things that I make very clear in the introduction and throughout the book. The one is that you can't understand the UFW movement if you don't include and centralize Filipino and Filipina grape workers. It's a very simple argument, but it's an argument that is long overdue, and it's an argument that is benefiting from the events that you're holding here today. The other one is to recognize that without the actions of a small group of people, 1,000, 1,500 who went on strike here, but then it becomes a tiny, tiny core of about 100 to 150 who remain on strike not just for 5 years, but arguably for the rest of their lives. And they're a group of people who are constantly insisting not only on their humanity, but on the humanity of all the workers that they're thinking of being in allyship with. So I want to highlight just two events that I think are emblematic of the Filipino workers who I met in the archives, and that I highlight here. The first one is the strike in Coachella itself in 1965. It was in early May, if I remember correctly, it might have been May 8 in 1965. It lasts about a week, as it was being mentioned earlier. Now, the Coachella Valley, part of the reason why the Coachella Valley might be key to understand here is that it's incredibly, incredibly hot. It's 100 degrees at least for about 5 months of the year. And then it's about 110 degrees at least for about 3 months of the year. And then there's about a month that is at least 115 to 125. Right? I joke with my friends that you take a shower, and as soon as you get out of the shower, you'd be back to sweating. Because of that, the grapes in the region ripened earlier, and it meant that individuals, the growers who owned the land, had a really short window to harvest all of those grapes. Now, if you're a worker, you're going to try to leverage as much as you can the vulnerabilities of your bosses so that you're able to get them to negotiate with you as an equal, as someone who respects you, someone who has to recognize that any of their wealth and any of their efforts are collaborations among many different individuals. So AWOC's members, when they arrived to Coachella around April 1965, most of the organizers for AWOC had already visited. They had already met a lot of the crew leaders. They had already met a lot of the members. They had already gone to some of the labor camps. They had kind of laid the groundwork because they were imagining all of 1965 as one harvest strike after another harvest strike after another harvest strike, because it was the very first year without the Bracero program. And if people don't know the Bracero program, it's a 20-year program of farm labor coming from Mexico that would serve as unlimited labor supply for growers. And it became an effective tool for growers to break strikes, to outwait you until they finish the harvest, and then they didn't need you anymore, right? So without that labor supply, suddenly the growers had to negotiate. Now, the Filipino workers, when they arrived, they don't go to the bosses and say, we need a wage increase. Instead, they met with all of the workers that they could meet in secret meetings, and they agreed that they were going to raise the wages by 15 cents. And then they held until like the final day before the harvest began, and then they went on strike. And the idea here was that they were going to make it as impossible as they could for the growers to outweight them. The strategy was a follow-up of a strike that had already happened in Stockton, and it was going to be a strategy that they were going to try to do in Arvin, Lamont, and then bring it up here in Delano. That was kind of like the idea. Now, the local newspapers, which were almost always owned by local white growers or were always with local white growers, they described the strikers as violent and lawless, and as people who did not know U.S. laws, as if the strikers themselves had not already served in World War II. Many of these strikers knew U.S. law. They knew about labor, and they knew how to be able to fight back, but the newspapers presented them as people who didn't know how to behave. A common racist attack is simply to say they don't know what they are doing, they don't know what they want, they are violent in their ignorance. Now, this is what Phila Veracruz said. He said that these strikers were neither angels nor devils, but that they responded to rancher violence and they believed they were fighting for their rights to live and to have an opportunity to betterment. And to me, those are two phrases, the right to live and the right to betterment. And I think about the right to live, of what it means to be able to have food in your body, water in your body, to have a home over your body, to have other bodies next to your body, to be able to be an actual human, as opposed to simply an appendage of somebody else's financial expectations. And the idea of opportunity for betterment, to me, always alludes to the constant emphasis among these men to be able to improve their lives, to become citizens, to bring families, to send money home so that other people can get an education. It reminded me of many of the sacrifices that many types of immigrants have been taking, this wearing of both your history, but also the future on your shoulders, and hoping that in one lifetime that you can get past multiple lifetimes of inequality. So this is the first one. That's the first movement. The second one was the Delano strike. So the Delano strike happens in September. But by October, November, things aren't looking great. By October, November, it looks like the strike could not or would not emulate the experience in Coachella. And at this moment, this was going to become essentially a war of attrition. Who can outlast whom and for how long, right? Now, most of the people who stayed on strike did not think that they were going to go on strike for 5 years. And I think about that, what that means to be with others in a strike for 5 years. It's a little unfathomable in many ways. Now, during the strike, around December, from December of 1965 to February of 1966, P. Velasco, one of the labor organizers too, he started to keep a journal of every day, of what time people woke up, 5 a.m., what did they do? They go out on the picket line, they go in the middle of the fog, when it's cold, sometimes they're being shot at, sometimes they're being, cars they're running at them, sometimes their tires are being slashed. And in addition to all of that, they're having dinners, they're having dances, they're meeting new friends. There is a doctora, a doctor from the Philippines, a woman who comes to practice medicine, and the Manongs are suddenly, all of them are sick because all of them need to see the doctor, right? Because she's this beautiful woman, and suddenly like, oh yeah, no, I have a throat issue, doctora, you know. And so this is, so I want to read you, this is an extension this is an extensive quote, and I just want to read you so you kind of get a sense of how this man saw his co-strikers. The quote, it says, the Delano grape strikers have been in a hard, rugged trek since when they struck against 38 grape growers in September of 8. They had hopes that before now they could have won their strike, but it turned out to be a much longer trek. The horizon of victory seems to be lost in the thick fog. There is no skepticism, though, in their hearts that they will see the light at the end of their journey soon. They are not, They are up and in the hall by 5 a.m. every day. Their feet are a bit heavier, and a trace of weariness on their faces plainly shows. They are a bit tense and touchy at times, but beneath those eyes is hope, glory, and determination to carry on to reach their goal. They have madness in their hearts, which is necessary for a fighter. They have patience too, which is a symbol of farsightedness and understanding. They also have laughter and humor, which is a sign that they enjoy life at any cost. To me, I understand this text as a marker of what a strike is, and it is simply to see people as part of your team. It is a refusal to be forgotten. It is a refusal to be abused, and it is a refusal to not speak out. To me, this is a movement that is not only courageous, not only valiant, but it is also a movement that was about healing past experiences, and it's a movement that was about caretaking. To me, it is a surprising quality. It's almost like strikes are almost described as very masculine affairs, but in many ways, I saw this strike as the best qualities that I hope to have as a man, as someone who takes care of others, as someone who expresses vulnerability, and as someone who sees the best in their community. I'm proud of this history as someone who comes out of a farm worker family, and I'm also proud of this history as someone who's a Californian. We're in a difficult moment, but there's no doubt that we will win, and there's no doubt that we have a rich history to emulate. So thank you.
Thank you, Christian. So I want you to know, Domi wrote his journal. He expanded on it by having a book. Then we had Christian, who started reading other people's writings and captured what happened. So I want to see different ways they captured the stories of the strike. But now, more importantly, we have a person directly linked with the strike as the son, Johnny Itliong. Thank you.
Hey, first I'd like to say two people that asked me to say something for them because they could not make it here today, which is, oh my goodness, Uncle Ray Pasqua and Auntie Dorothy Cordova. They both send their warm regards and wishes that they could be here and be a part of this, and witness this, because this is part of them too as well. I myself, I was blessed to be the son of Larry. We were talking over here about the Manongs that died, bachelors. Many of them died here in the United States. And I just wanted to get this through because this is so difficult for me to talk about, because as a child, I remember going 2, 3, 4 years old, going to funerals. These men that I knew, Piano's camp, the Lucas camp, all these camps out here, I knew too many of them. I couldn't remember their names. By themselves. Absolutely. I would wake up early in the morning. My dad would get me and my brother, and we'd go to Pixley, to Arvin, to Ducor, to Visalia, to Tulare, to Stockton, to all these areas. Central Valley, to the south, to the north. And I remember burying these men, hundreds of them. And I never understood how much that affected me as a person. And I never talked about it until only a few years ago at UCLA. I'm sorry, at USC. It was the first time I was asked really about my experience of this whole. My whole life has been to talk about straightening out the history of the UFW. And unfortunately, this is not the whole story of my father. And the thing is that I'm still fighting this propaganda machine that talks about what they have not done. And unfortunately, it happened again today. So I have to say something about this in honor of these men that I buried, because this story has to be corrected. Dolores worked for AWOC for 30 days as a secretary. She was not a recruiter. She did not teach my father about unionizing and organizing. My dad was 50 years old when he started with AWOC. Dolores was 30. My father already started in 1929 with the first grape strike in Monroe Valley in Washington. He met Ernest Managua. Ernest Managua is the founder and was the founder and director of CIO, the Coalition of International Organization, which later joined with AFL, not agricultural, AFL-CIO, which became AFL-CIO. It hurts me to sit here and have to correct this from a woman who was part of all this, who has a great legacy, and to sit here and lie about my father. I can't sit here in my skin and not say something about what you just said. Yeah. Right? You're taking the stories and correcting them. I can't do it. I am my father's son. I have everything that my life has been around here, learning in the fields about these great men who gave up their lives to feed this country. She did not teach him anything about organizing and unionizing. My dad already started with CIO. He started with the Longboard Workmen's Boat Union. He was a founding member, held position. The Cannery Boat Workers Union, the International Longshore Workmen's Union. He was a founding member and held up to vice president in all positions prior to that. And in his paperwork, I can only speak the truth out of his papers, out of his documents, because he did not teach me about anything, tell his family about anything prior to what he did, because his focus was helping, first when he came here, was helping Filipinos. Then it turned out to helping the poor. The poor doesn't have a race, the poor doesn't have a color, the poor doesn't have a politics. The poor is hungry. The poor needs a place to live, a place to stay, water to drink, but it's 100 degrees out there. Bathrooms, you're not in the fields. I remember going in the fields, we all had to do it who all worked out there. There's no bathrooms for us. There's a hole in the ground. Other workers around you. My dad did so much prior to the UFW, and I hate the fact that I always have to come up here and sit here and talk about the UFW when he did so much more for so many more people, and even after the UFW. And I'm constantly having to fight the propaganda machine of the UFW and those who are in it. This history has to be fixed. Oh, your time's up. Somebody's time's up. Nah, just- You know, and I was blessed with this humor that I can go from one extreme to the other. That's my father's fault. Because he was just like that. I had so many men throughout the years, big men, bigger men than me, say, you know, my father was what, 5'6". Say to me, big men, your father scared the shit out of me. But I respected him for everything he did and was. And I knew that if I had trouble, he was the one to go talk to. He was the one that would go stand up for us if anybody needed help. I've tried to follow in those footsteps. My father needs help right now. His legacy needs help right now. Those of you who know me have heard me say these things before. You've witnessed the propaganda machine today. And this is really not what I wanted to talk about, but I have to. And I will always stand up and speak for my father and these men, these manongs and manongs who died here, being worked to death and discarded to the dirt, with grave sites that don't have names, numbers only. I started this in the park opening with, if you look in the art room, there's a panel there with names of manongs there. My goal is to get all these names, and hopefully I can do that by going to the AFL-CIO AWOC archives, and hopefully I can get, you know, at least most of their names and figure out where to put them and how to do it. But, you know, that's something that we could do as a community with funds or whatever, with anybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. These names need to be seen and read and remembered because they had nobody. Nobody. And for the amount of men that I got to bury, there's even more that had no one, nobody there. And it sucks to know that and feel that. And I know you guys know this too. And I know many of you do. So I know I'm in good company. But anyways, with that out of the way, since everybody's reading from their papers and stuff. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry. Time's up. I did want to read this, and this is going to take just a little bit more than a minute, so I'll try and hurry. So this was an interview that was done by Lolita Lucasan, and I think she's still around, and she's still a professor at San Jose State University. And I believe she was 18 years old when she did this interview. I don't have the date of it, but this is the summary of this interview. And it says, the life in an institution of the United States of America is based on exploitation of the weak so the affluent few can live lavish existence. Even the poor are induced and encouraged to live beyond their means. I'm reading this without my glasses. I can barely see it. Which means that in order for these people to live as prescribed by the institution, they have to hack themselves to their necks, wherein their existence and freedom are always under control of the powers that may. Church and morality. The churches are no different, and that they too support the thinking of the institution, the speaking and the mortality, and in what terms and whose terms. They too become subservient to the institutions so that they too can perpetuate the good things under their wings.
This is a selfish country and gives things only when it's further its self-interest, not because they have it, but because they can afford it. Everything the United States does is based on selfishness motivations. You have my personal thinking, now what will you do with it? So that, and to me, that says a lot. That says a lot about the rich and the poor, and the politicians that support the rich and all that. I mean, there's so much more to get into it, but I just wanted to read that to you and tell you how grateful I am that I'm able to be here. How grateful I am that we could come to a city and take over a high school, take over the streets, you know, when we do our parades, to take over a park and have our events, because we couldn't do that before. And we couldn't do that before without the support of the American people. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is break away from this Filipino-centric idea that the UFW and my father and the history of all that is just Latino and Filipino events. But when in fact, my father is a great American immigration story. And it needs to get out to everybody else, because this is a lesson that can be learned by so many people. Because without our history, we don't know what our future is. And thank you, Fonz, for having me. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me and give me this opportunity to be here. I appreciate it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. I'd like to acknowledge the fact that Domi and Christian shared their story. We have also Johnny sharing his story, but the more important, he's sharing his story with emotion. And that's what's critical. It was part of sharing our stories. So give him a round of applause and we'll get ready for Larry the Musical. Thank you. It's a great honor to introduce the presentation, how we can tell and preserve our story with a musical. Larry the Musical. An American Journey by Gayle Romasanta, writer, executive producer, author, and national trustee of FONS, the Filipino-American National Historical Society. The Larry the Musical follows the story of Larry Itliong and the Filipino-American farm workers who started the 1965 Delano Grape strike. Gayle has appeared on television, radio, online, journal, and books, such as the New York Times, Smithsonian Magazine, Times, and more. She co-authored the first book about Larry, the leader, Larry Itliong, Journey for Justice, the life of Larry Itliong. Be aware, when they first did their book tour, they came to Delano because they felt it was very appropriate to be able to do it here in Delano. So we thank Gayle for doing that also. But also, I want to emphasize, Gayle co-authored the book with Don Mabalam. So that was really critical of them working together. And finally, Gayle also wrote Larry the Musical, An American Journey, which sold out in 2024 premiere in San Francisco Brava Theater. The thing I want to emphasize, we want Larry the Musical in the Central Valley. Not just, we want it here. We want it, I'll be selfish, we want it in San Diego. I know it, but also we want it in LA. Because I'm just giving you what my things are, but also we had the distinct advantage of seeing it in the Bay Area. It was fantastic. But the more important, we need to share the story, but this is what we need. We need your support. When I say support, yes, financial, sponsorship, and that's what we're doing this right now. Get the word out. Look at your different organizations and start doing this support. I'm sorry, Jay, I gotta toot your horn and really get this thing going, because you know what? We're ready, and whatever it takes, and it's whatever you can also help. At this point, Gayle Romasanta. Oh, put the mic on.
Push. Okay. All right. Man, everybody, thank you for being here. We're at the very end of the day, so I really appreciate everybody. You guys have all stayed here for the whole day. Most of you, I've seen all of you here, and this is a tremendous milestone, 60 years since the start of the Great Delano Grape Strike, which I've actually now been working on this story for about 11 years now, and I think I'm one of the last generations who grew up with the Manongs. My mom's side of her family, they were all of the Manong generation, were farm workers, my Lolo, or who also was my great uncle, but I knew him as my Lolo. He even went in the Army. He was an Army cook during World War II for the United States. And we were raised with a family farm, and 8 Manongs had bought that farm in our family in Brentwood, California, up north near Stockton. And I was raised in Stockton and in Little Manila. And so really grateful to be able to tell this story, which is really an homage to my own family roots and an homage to everybody in Stockton, Delano, Salinas, everywhere where our people have been. And it's not just, a Manong generation story. This is a story for us now. It's a story for my children. It's a story for the next generation. And so I hope as we go through the slides here, I can talk a little bit about how do we tell this story for the future, right? So I've been a longtime artist in San Francisco. And I live in Stockton, but at one point I lived in San Francisco, and I still work in San Francisco, and I've been a longtime artist. I've been part of the community for over 30 years now, and I feel like my artistic heart is in San Francisco, and absolutely my heart is always in Stockton. And next slide, a little bit about Larry the Musical. How many of you watched Larry the Musical in the audience? All right, good. All right, about a third, a quarter to a third. Also, Herb, thank you, and everybody in Delano for inviting me. I think I just ran up over here, and I just want to say thank you. So first slide, you guys can lower down the lights too, or take the house lights so that we can see it better. So Larry is a new musical about the life and legacy of Filipino-American labor leader Larry Itliong, which no one had really written about Larry. He didn't write his own book. Philip Veracruz wrote his own book, but no one really knew about Larry until, there were articles, some scholars had written about Larry, but no one really had researched him as much as Dr. Dawn Mabalon did, and she ended up with her research, and I wrote Journey for Justice, The Life of Larry Itliong, which in 2019 we had our book launch, our first book launch here in Delano for the book, and this musical was inspired from that book, the first book about Larry Itliong, which is also a children's book. So next slide. We were able to get some Broadway actors, some union actors actually, which is a big deal in the theater world. We have Amard here, played Elder Larry, and then we had young Larry, Josh. Josh was our young Larry. Next slide. And so this wasn't just a story about Larry Itliong, but it was about he's a Filipino-American labor leader who led the 1965 Delano Grape Strike, created the United Farm Workers Union alongside Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, but it also looks at how Larry Itliong became a powerhouse labor leader in the Filipino-American community who stood by him and fought for justice. So when Larry came here, he was only 15 years old. So you can imagine when he came here, everybody who had immigrated to the United States, all the Filipinos were also young, just like him. So they didn't have elders here. So they all raised each other, and his mentors were probably not too much older than him. They might have been in their early 20s. Next slide. And so this is the trajectory of Larry. We're trying to hit as many Filipino students, Filipino families, and just other audiences, like mainstream audience, to tell Larry's story. For instance, just this past weekend, we were able to sing the national anthem for the first Filipino Heritage Night for the WNBA, for the Valkyries, the Golden State Valkyries in San Francisco. And so our first workshop was in 2021. We had 5K views. Workshop 2 premiered in 2022. We had 3,500 views. And then we had our sold out Brava Theater in SF theatrical premiere. And it sold out in less than 48 hours after previews. So that means 8,000 seats. You could not find a ticket. It was really hard to find a ticket, but this happened last year in March through April 2024. We had our concept album release, April 2025, and we had our we have dreams. We have really big dreams of a West Coast tour, LA, Delano, Stockton through 2026, 2027. But that is really a grassroots effort. When I tell you that this is on the backs of our community, it really is. It was donations, it was grants. It was our loved ones donating to make this theater premiere possible. So some of you donated in the audience here. Some of you really helped spread the word of Larry, the Musical and American Journey. I just want to say I'm so grateful for that. And then we hope to have additional stage productions in the future, but that's only really if our community is hungry for it. Now, what we've seen last year is our community is absolutely hungry for it, and only then, when our community shows out, does the mainstream actually start listening, and they start saying, hey, I think this is something we may want to watch too. Next slide. And so this was, I explained earlier about the show and about Dr. Don's involvement. This musical was also about Dr. Don Mabalon. We had lost her on the day that we had finalized Journey for Justice, The Life of Larry Itliong, the children's book. It actually gets taught in college also. It's actually a pretty hefty book. It's about 54 pages, but it's wall-to-wall text with some illustrations. And so she was just prolific, and we wrote that about like 27 times. Every time I edited something, I would wake up the next morning and she redid it all over again, and then there was something else to edit the next day. And so that was Dawn, though, very, very thorough, wanted to make sure everybody understood and that everything was historically correct. And so she had unfortunately passed away on the day that we finished the book, and we finalized it with the printers. And so I actually wrote her in the musical. So at the very beginning of the musical, she is getting Larry's story. And you don't realize that's Dr. Don Mabalon until the end of the musical. Next slide. And so just to show you, this is how hard it takes to get our story to mainstream, or even to get our story to our people, is that we had a small but mighty team, but who was doing all graphics, and a team from Google that actually led by Christopher Sotelo, who was a videographer at Google, who really helped our visuals and our filmmaking. And so, and also we had a wonderful PR company called Papa Lowdown Productions, Paloma Concordia. She's out in Oxnard, and she really helped us. We were featured in over 80 press hits across TV, radio, print, online, social media, news, positive press coverage, 159 million total audience across all outlets. 764,000 estimated views across all coverage, 10.1 thousand engagement likes, comments, and shares, featured 3 times on the front cover of the SF Chronicle Datebook, and featured on the front cover of the East Bay Express. So you can look at that. Pinoy Pride. And just an FYI, Jeremy Lin of Lin Sanity actually reposted our photo with him from the Valkyries, and so we were really hyped about that. But little by little, we need to tell our story across all media. Next slide. some of the coverage. Next slide. All of these, everything, we were on so many interviews. I'm not sure how we kept it all together, but we tried. Dr. Alison Tidianco-Cubales is actually in the audience, and believe it or not, none of our actors had actually played a Filipino before. Many of them had done community theater. Many of them were professional theater folks. A few of them actually were in New York and regular, that was their job. Their job is to be an actor in New York, or doing national tours, but they had never played a Filipino before. And I want to say thank you to Dr. Alison Tidianco-Cubales for helping us get through those months of being in production together, because as you can see, when you open up this story, there's so much trauma, and there's so many emotions and so much love, passion, and then also grief that is tied up into the story of Larry Itliong, our elders, our ancestors, but also our community itself. And I think, how many of you consider yourselves activists or part of the community? Can you raise your hands? How many of you are part of the community? Okay, good half. So for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do know, being in community means that you're going to get your heart broken many, many times. And you have to figure out how to put it all back together and get back to becoming a community member. And I think that's what happened to Larry. I think that happens to many of us who are in community. And our actors had never known what that feels like, to learn about their history, to go through ethnic studies training, and to fully understand what had happened to their people. The violence that happened to our bodies, the protests where our lives and our children's lives were on the line. And this show made it so that we actually had to work extra hard together to get through emotionally. Next slide. And so we did all this press, but behind the scenes, we had to keep it all together. Next slide. This is New Hope. You'll be seeing New Hope in a little bit. Next slide. A beautiful scene where Larry actually is telling his sweetheart in the Philippines that he's no longer coming back home. He has a new life here in the United States and he's not coming back. There's actually in the Yale archives in an interview that Dr. Don Mabalon had actually gotten, where Larry did talk about a sweetheart that he had left behind. He just said it was a high school sweetheart, but it was one of the things that captured our imagination, and we felt like she actually embodied Malaya, the character Malaya, which Malaya means freedom in Tagalog, actually embodied the Philippines. What happens when you actually immigrate and you leave that love behind, that deep ancestral tie. Next slide. Another photo from the show. Next slide. And I think this is New Hope. So this is when Larry finds himself on the ship. He's on the ship and he's left his family for the first time. So here you go. And again, it's Josh Karandang. It's...
Was it hard to say goodbye?
You always remember the way your Nai looks when you leave her. I sailed on the Empress of Asia in 1929. Here I go to a place unknown, across the sea, my dreams to be. I'll miss some holidays, birthday celebrations too, Malaya's face, my family. With everything I own, a price to pay alone, America, the land of the free. So here I go,
far from home, to a place unknown, a place of hope. So here I go, far from home. With each step I take, I'm taking a leap of faith.
There were almost 800 people in third class. I was the youngest.
Upstairs is for first class passengers.
I'm getting fresh air.
Get used to it. You're down here with the rest of us. Hi, I'm Tomas from Bohol.
My name is Modesto, but my family calls me Larry. Are all Bisayans tall?
Are all Ilocanos mean? I'm kidding.
Watch it!
Oh, sorry. Oh, you're a girl.
You must be the smart one. And what's he, half man, half Carabao?
That's Tomas. I'm Larry.
Where's your chaperone?
Izzy, from Manila, and you're it.
We spent 22 days together. We became fast friends and met other Pinoys on the ship. They were just like us, young, homesick, with the same American dreams.
The Empress of Asia is docking. If you are disembarking in Seattle, Washington, please take all of your belongings.
There she is! Seattle!
It's raining. Is that good or bad luck?
It's good luck. In America, we can make our dreams come true. Izzy, what's your dream?
In America, don't need to sleep to see my dreams. Do you know what that means? Living free from being a wife. I can choose what makes me happy. I'm not born for wishing for freedom or a right to choose. I don't need a man to choose what I can and cannot do.
Dang.
So, Tomas, what are you gonna do in America?
Me. Find a good woman and have children.
What about marriage?
Only if that person wants to get married. But I need to make a lot of money, and this is how I'm gonna do it. I know what it's like to be against the ropes. Protect your head and keep on swinging. But if I ever take a blow, counter with precision, I'll never lose on a decision. Bob and weave, I'll roll up my sleeves. I can win with the right combination. The bells are ringing, I'll keep swinging. This is my chance to get rich. I know I'm twice as strong, so I'll be twice as rich.
Got it. So you're looking for money. What about you, Larry? What's your dream?
I've always heard a voice inside me tell me I could be someone more than just a farmer or an ordinary son. I've seen so many of our people struggle through the hard times. I can make a difference. I'll find fairness in our world. I will right the wrongs of our past if I was given the chance. This is our chance. So here we go.
Don't need to sleep these dreams.
To a place unknown.
You know what that means.
So here we go. Far from home. With each step I take, I'm taking a leap of faith. Far from home, to a place unknown.
that is a little bit at the beginning of the musical, and so Larry, I had to reimagine that Larry found friends, and of course he did, and many of them were men and women, and some of the women that actually came by themselves were really trailblazers, because if they came by themselves and they didn't have a male chaperone, that was not necessarily socially what most women did back then, but women did do that. There were a few women who did that, and a lot of what I based on the women in this production is really from Dr. Don Mabalon's book, The Making of the Philippine-X Community in Stockton, Little Manila's in the Heart. That book, Little Manila's in the Heart, if you guys have not read that, please read that. But there's a section in there that talks about the women in our communities that I don't believe are necessarily talked enough about, and how they really keep our communities together. I mean, even just when we talk about when we talk about food, when we talk about the Queen and the Princess contests that help raise money for our community centers, and I believe that was very true in Delano. And Leslie, if I can play on the Smithsonian edits, if I can play the Queen song or the Queen contest song, this was a really fun song that we did that really showed how you can organize in the Filipino community at that time, specifically in the Filipino Community Center. Because for those of you who've been to Filipino Hall here, you see all the previous queens and all the leadership in the lobby there. I really got, and a lot of us from musicians, our other writers who are Kevin Kamia, who wrote on the songs, we really got so much inspiration, specifically from Roger Gadiano. I don't know if Roger is still here. Roger Gadiano, the late and great Alex Edior, he actually reminded me after we showed him the first workshop songs, he said, don't forget, we have Joy. Arlene and Suzanne Villaruz also, who are here. We interviewed them, just really helped shape how, we wrote and shaped this musical. And so there's a piece that we did about Queen contests, and I believe it should say Queen contests. Social box. The social box? Yes, that's it.
Buy a ticket to dance with your favorite princess! How many people are here? 2,000?
Can we put on closed captions?
Organize our community to come in thousands like this
if there
for
is
a strike? If we could find a way that would unite us Filipinos.
That's a tall order. Filipinos are divided by language, region, and whether or not you put soy sauce in your adobo.
Who doesn't put soy sauce in their adobo?
Visayans!
Hey, I didn't mean you.
We celebrate the great writer and revolutionary Jose Rizal. We are princesses, and only one will reign.
Ooh. Trying to get that Wi-Fi. Come on, ancestors. If it doesn't work out, we'll probably have to just go back to the deck and play the deck. But this was a fun piece that we did that really paid homage to how the women currently and have in the past always kept our communities together. And so, as you can tell, while this story is absolutely about Larry and about how hard it is to be a leader and how hard and the difficult choices that he had to make when he led the community and when he led the Great Delano Grape Strike, this was also ultimately about our community and how we learned how to protest, how to go on strike, and what were the milestones that brought us together. And I think right now, when we talk about solidarity and about coming together, these times that were portrayed in the musical, the times we had to come together because there was so much violence on us. And I don't know, I think for those of you who saw the musical, and if you've read other historical texts, there were many things that were happening to us. There was the Watsonville riots in 1930, where you saw 500 Filipinos were ran out of Watsonville. I'm sorry, not 500 Filipinos. Filipinos were ran out of Watsonville, and it was estimated to be a 500 person mob to go after them. And one person, Fermin Tabera, was killed, and nobody was arrested. And they were teenagers. They were white teenagers who actually killed Fermin Tabera, and they were not charged. And 1 week after that, the KKK had bombed the Filipino Federation of America building in Stockton, and we wrote a song about Watsonville and Stockton in the musical. And so these historical moments actually happened within a year of Larry landing here. So if you can imagine, you're 15 years old and you land in the United States and your community is going through so much violence, but then also are migrant farm workers, like how are you shaped? How hard do you have to be able to keep on going and have the resilience to lead your community? And can we play Watson? It's going to be the Smithsonian edits. It's going to say Watsonville, Stockton, if we can get that. Otherwise, is this just from the deck? If it's from the deck, I'll just play that if it's easier.
There's a riot. A mob of 500 white men beat and ran Filipinos out of Watsonville. And I know you saw the Filipino Federation building. It was bombed early this morning, just after midnight. I know we're all angry, hurt, and scared.
Fermin Tabera was killed in Watsonville by teenagers. No one was arrested. They haven't even arrested anyone yet for the Federation bombing.
We need to put an end to these sons of bitches!
We understand if they're not there trying to actively kill us, they're planning it.
We need to convene with city council business and use the city
What will they do for us, Larry? Watch while another mob finishes the job?
Easy.
I came from Watsonville, escaped with my life. Fermin was shot in a closet, and we fought through the night. They chased us in their trucks, beat us and tricked us, their white hands clenched in fists, and you can hear them scream.
Get rid of all Filipinos or we'll burn this town down. Get rid of all Filipinos or we'll turn this town around and around. Get rid of all Filipinos or we'll burn this town down. Get rid of all Filipinos or we'll turn this town around and around.
500 white men with burning anger and a hate so deep that only pain and brown flesh and terror in brown eyes could ease. Near the river, the rolling hills, through the apple orchards, the journey for a better life was shattered in the night. Grab a gun or a knife, we didn't start this fight. A life for a life, we could put an end to this tonight. else till there's nothing. Do you remember when we saved all our money and sacrificed it all away from our families? I still believe that we are worthy of our sacred past and a glorious future, but we're welcomed with murder. A humiliation that will open the heart like a sharp knife that will steal the blood for our souls to rise. This ends tonight. This ends tonight. This is our future. Our children's fate. This ends right now tonight. This is happening in Salinas, San Jose, Wapato, and Gilroy. It's happening everywhere.
We need to defend ourselves! We can't fight violence with violence. That's
Come on,
They want a reaction! We need to show them we're not afraid. We're dignified. We have honor. Grab your coats, your furs, suits and ties. Larry, you're not making any sense.
If you were there, you'd side with me.
Easy! I'm sorry. I should have let you come with us. I didn't know. If we're in jail or dead, we'll forever be silent. We came for better lives. No one could say that we didn't try. Staring adversity in the eye. Let's stand in front of the building. Let's show them we aren't moving. Don't react, just stay calm. This defiance will be confusing when they see our picture in the news or in the future. They're gonna say, look at them smile.
They didn't cower, they stood tall and took back power.
And they'll know we put it all on the line. We're not going anywhere.
So you couldn't see it completely clearly on the screen, but we showed the real burnt, bombed out Filipino Federation of America building behind the actors on stage. And Filipinos did get dressed to the nines, and they took pictures of it with their family and their children who were dressed to the nines. They were all smiling. And I've always tried to figure out No, not always, but I've seen that picture before when I was younger, and I would think, wow, Filipinos are just so nice. They're not angry, they're smiling in front of their community building that just got bombed. And in writing the musical, I figured out that they did it to show that they weren't going anywhere, that when people see this picture in the future, that you couldn't get rid of them. They were here and they were gonna stay. And just like in Dr. Don Mabalon's book, this really portrays, after these events happened, Filipinos began to have, they began having children, they were getting married in the United States, and they started really putting their roots into their communities like Delano and Stockton, Salinas, and other areas in Seattle where Filipinos were, but very specifically in Stockton and in Delano. Next. And in this next slide, I believe we have protest. And we actually did this song here in Delano during our workshop too for the community here, and we recorded it with the community members. And I see some of our folks here from Delano who came. I know Tita Pin was there. I don't know if Tita Pin is still here. And Tita Pin, who believes she still teaches, the kids club here who does the traditional folk dances, and so also Patty Serta, Victor, they were also there. So I want to just also give a shout out to Larry Itliong's family, who've been so gracious with us being able to tell this story, and Dr. Don Mabalon's family. That's Patty Serta Itliong in the back, and then also her husband Victor, and then also Johnny Itliong. I know I met Johnny, I want to say 11 years ago, almost 12 years now. And I know Patty, I met her, I think 9 years ago, and they've just been very, very gracious in sharing their father's memory and also the history that is shared by so many of us. And as we try to piece together the past and tell our story, our very American story.
This might tear our community apart.
If the growers were...
I might take the mic and just start talking from the tech booth. Or we
really
can...
are friends, they would know your worth and negotiate a new contract.
Well, it looks like the growers aren't even coming.
I could have told you.
Friends! Bastards!
Do you all want to go home? Or...
Go on strike?
What if this is the last chance to win a better wage?
We're not getting any younger. The time is right now.
What about our families? We all need to eat. Hey! We can still negotiate.
Negotiate my knife.
It's not helpful. Everyone! We need to be united in our strategy.
What strategy?
And they're gonna attack us? What is
I know that we want to go on strike. Oh, now he wants to go on strike.
Of course he does.
Hey, back off! Back off!
I'm sick.
What do you think, Larry?
We are not poor or uneducated. We're determined and dignified, fighting for the right to win a better life. And this nation, the supposed land of the free, it will never be given to us. Don't you see how the white man treats us? How tough they are on us? We can be just as tough and just as mean. I want those in favor to stand with your hands raised.
Listen to their stories. Follow the ancestors. Listen to their stories. Follow the ancestors. Listen to their stories. Follow the ancestors. Listen to their stories.
Follow the stories. I see you, you see me, and you see we listen to each other's stories. Can't you see? This is who we are. We have the same rights as anyone, but those same rights won't be given. They must be one. They must be one. They must be one. They must be one. I see you, you see me. Together we tell our story. Can't you see? Who we are? Must fight for life. United we stand strong and march for truth, march for dreams, march for hope. March as one, fight as one family. I want all those in favor to raise their hands. Let's fight for the voiceless. I'll stand by your side. Fight as one family. Together we rise. The heart of the Filipino is revolution.
Then let's go.
What's the plan, Larry?
We show up like any other harvest. We'll cut the grapes from the vines, but we won't pack them. Just drop them and walk. So the growers only have two choices: a whole season ruined, or pay us what we ask for, and we finish the job. Cut, drop, leave it and walk. 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 Cut, drop, leave it and walk
backdrop, Leave It and Walk. Our director actually is a director by the name of Billy Bustamante, who was associate director on Broadway for Here Lies Love by David Byrne. And we were so lucky in having amazing creative group that worked with us. One of our other our composers were Brian Pangilinan of San Diego. He's also in San Francisco now, and Sean Khanna, who was one of our composers. And so we're just really lucky. If you like the music, we actually have the album on sale, digital album and a vinyl. You just go to www.larrythemusical.com. Is that me? Oh, we're trying to change the Wi-Fi. Actually, you know what? I forgot my password. Sorry, this is what happened. So we're gonna try to see if we can play. Oh wait, it's Verizon. That's it. So we're gonna try to see if my Wi-Fi is gonna work here. There is one song actually that I wanted to show, and this is for everybody who's been in the community. It's called Solidarity Forever. But so what happens when, they go on strike, right? You saw what happened in Marissa Arroyo's, her documentary earlier, was that the Filipino community, Dr. Alex Fabros even said that in the documentary, that Filipinos got the short end of the stick. And so by the end of the musical, the Filipino community is up in arms. And what happens to a leader when your community doesn't want to follow? And what happens to a leader when they start questioning the decisions that were made? Is this it? Solidarity Forever? This is it. Okay. We're going to see if we can play it.
Had I become an attorney, I would have been the lawyer that did the legal work to get you into the trial. I organized the evidence. I wrote the papers. I did the research, and I did the strategy. If I say so myself, I was a brilliant strategist. And I knew, after 35 years of organizing, with unity comes strength.
Solidarity forever, unity for always and always and always.
They're afraid of a brown skin, so they pull us apart.
Tell us we're no good, dirty and poor.
What rights do you have if you have nothing?
So you endure.
You called Caesar.
I told him, if you don't join our strike, we'll break yours next time you go on strike.
I know this story. Caesar didn't feel like the National Farm Workers Association was ready.
Sorry, everybody. We're having some tech difficulties, but we'll just go to our final 11th hour song of the musical. One of these days, we hope in 2027, we actually come back with the musical production here to Delano and in Stockton. But we're going to play one last song from the deck. Thank you so much, Leslie and team back there, just trying to make it all happen for us all day today. So really appreciate you all. Tech, man, I give my hats off every time. Make or break the show, so thank you so much. And so this, I See You. So by the end of the musical, and apologies when we come here, you're going to know the ending, but by the end of the musical, Larry has told Dr. Don Mabalon his whole story and everything that happened to him as a young person in the United States, what happened in the community, and also what happened in the UFW when he resigned, and towards the end. And so she gets his story, but by the end of the story, he tells her that essentially that his last campaign was to tell his story to her so that she would be finished with her work and she could ascend. They are both ancestors, and one of his campaigns was to get her to go with him and to leave the work for the rest of us. And so I implore all of you, I think all of our ancestors would want. They're cheering us on from wherever they are. They want the best for us. And so always the story ends with all of us. And so this is the moment when Dawn knows that she must let go of her work, at least in the musical. What I had imagined, what would be happening when two great iconic leaders of the Filipino community ascend and are our ancestors, what happens to the work? And the work gets left to us who are still here. And here's the last song called I See You. And it's really a song about kapwa, seeing yourself in each other. And it really is ultimately about love and how kapwa binds us all together.
But you're the dream now, a hope. In fact, all of us who came before, if people listen, they will follow the ancestors and listen to our stories.
There was a time I was searching for a meaning, and you became my story. Larry, I carried you. Your story. It felt like I couldn't breathe. But now I can feel my own memories. A warm embrace. I see the light and I can hear music.
It's time for others to lead the way. There's no need for goodbyes, there's no need for regrets.
I see you, you see me. Together our journey is now complete. This is not the end, we are never apart. We must believe that our truth is in the heart. I know that you're with me always to guide the way in all of our days. We keep learning the way. This is a new feeling woven together to be part of this healing. Is this what love is? A connection so deep. I feel for you.
And so that was our 11th hour song. We had a few more songs at the end of that, but that was kind of like the moment where, you know, we had a call to action for our audience. Next slide. So here's the creative team, myself, that's Brian Pangilinan, lead composer. Next slide. Billy Bustamante, director, choreographer. Sean Kana, co-composer, music director, and orchestrator. And we had, you know, other team members. This was the core who really worked on story and who really pushed out the music, all of us together. They, of course, music team did music team. And they did a fabulous job. Billy did an amazing job as choreographer and director. Next slide. So this is educational and community engagement and multi-generational fan base. And so, folks, this really was based on so much historical information. I think but after Dr. Dawn Mabalan passed, she left us with 800 pages that I read through of research that she had collected and did not turn into a book, unfortunately. She was in the process of turning it into a book about Larry Itliong, but she left it for us, and I was able to go through it. And one of the things that I found aside from the research was this amazing article called Up to My Elbows in Rice about Paiz in the community. And one of them was Herb Delute's and Nikki Delute's, Tut Hill's mother. Her mom was in the article, and so I'm not able, because we don't have Wi-Fi, I'm not able to show you another song about the women in the community, but just really wanted to share that many of these characters were really composites of folks put together of what our community life and our people were like. And also Nikki and Herb, thank you for sharing your family's stories. It's so important when we tell our stories that, you know, our folks are still alive in Stockton, our folks are still there in thriving communities in Delano, in places where there are so much storytelling. So when you go home today, your family is still there. Please get their stories. Please write your own stories. It's so important that we are here alive and breathing together, and that we continue the tradition of sharing our work. And you know, many of us think that it's not artwork. It's not worth it to be on stage. It needs to be 100% good. Let me just tell you that so many of my drafts were no good, and I was so embarrassed people were reading my work, and I knew they were no good, but you have to start somewhere. So please, if you learn anything, oh, there it goes, continue telling your story. And next slide. Join us. We are still, we fundraise. Y'all, we were able to fundraise and get grants to be able to do the work in San Francisco. We hope to do that here. You can go to our Instagram website. We're also on TikTok. Next page. And I'm just trying to figure out TikTok too, so if it looks wonky, it's me. Support the movement. You can donate to, we partnered with Little Manila Rising, who's our fiscal sponsor. And then also, you just buying the album is huge, because we're still in the red for the album, which means someone had to pay for the production of the album. So even just helping us out, this is how we make artwork, is that someone has to pay for it, and that we have faith in the community because they're gonna want it, and they want to know their story. They wanna hear our music. So if you like the music today, it's $19.99 for the digital. It's a little bit more expensive for a vinyl because those were expensive, but those QR codes work. I think I'm at time at 6:50, unless you all have questions. I'm happy to answer anything about like artwork, writing. How do you continue to do this? How can you do this, you know, in high school or circles, or, you know, starting small? If anyone has any questions at all, I can talk about that. Any question in the center? Oh, why did I decide to write a musical? You know, I've been doing theater for a long time now. So I've been doing theater since high school and in undergrad. I actually was a theater major, but because I didn't want to try out for some roles that were available to me, I decided to become a creative writing major. And so I've been doing theater, and it just made sense. I actually was friends with the composer Brian Pangilinan, and he was managing director, I was artistic director of the only Filipino-American theater in the United States, Bindlestiff Studio on 6th Street. About 18 years ago, we worked together. And they were all in Allegiance, the Japanese American play by George Takei, and George Takei, and most of the cast that showed in the Bay Area for Allegiance, they were all Filipinos. And I went to go watch it. Brian actually played the father, George Takei's father in that, or the father in Allegiance. And we started talking about, well, how come Filipinos don't have their own story? What are we doing on stage? Like, I'm seriously, about 90% of that cast was Filipino-American actors in a Japanese American story. And so we started working on it, really started working on it during COVID. And so, and that's why it just made sense. I mean, and I will tell you that the only reason why I'm able to do that, I was able to do it, was because I dropped out of law school. So I was in law school at one point in my life, and I told my parents, listen, I'm dropping out and I'm going to art school, and I'm going to get a master's in fine arts and writing, and they didn't stop me. So there are many, like, that's the only reason, honestly. And for those of you who are parents, those of you raising the next generation, your teachers, your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents, please let your children be artists or be in the humanities, because it matters.
We got a microphone.
Hi, Gayle.
Hi, Lourdes.
Will Larry the Musical be at Broadway?
You know, in the dreams of all dreams of hopes and wishes dreams, that would be beautiful and that would be amazing. A lot of things would need to happen, and Broadway, from my understanding, is it takes millions and millions and millions of dollars to be on Broadway. And for us, our goal is really to get it to our communities and to our folks. And once we do that, I think we've succeeded, and I know that Broadway will start listening to us. And I think that this is like a domino effect, is that once we know what we want and what we're going to watch and what we're going to support, the mainstream can no longer ignore us. So yes, we should be there, and we hope so. But that means that everybody here and everybody in the other communities need to also ask and support for this kind of storytelling.
Okay, one more question. Did you already mention where we can get the soundtrack?
Yes, so you could get the soundtrack. You could go on the QR code that was on the deck. You can also just go to www.larrythemusical.com. If you go to Instagram, you can find our website on Instagram too. So it's larrythemusical.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh,
Hi, thank you so much. I loved your musical, so beautiful, and the musicians were incredible.
Thank you.
Great artists. My question is just specifically more politically oriented. How do you see this story correlated for today's times, and what message can you give for this era of progressives?
I think, to be transparent, I'm actually editing it right now. So whatever you're going to see in the future is going to be different than what we showed in San Francisco. And I think there needs to be a lot more support of the story about solidarity. I think that's absolutely important right now. And that one of these days you guys will see the solidarity song, but in that solidarity song you will see that community work is hard. It is so hard. We could all be in this room together, love each other as family members, but still not agree on what we need to do for our communities and for our loved ones. We can all be working together, and I swear, I think I have a lot of my coworkers are in the audience right now. We may not agree on how to solve our community's issues, But there still needs to always be solidarity, and when you can come together and say, okay, well, I agree to disagree with you. However, this is something that is really big, and we need to show up for, and we need to show out for. For instance, what is happening right now, if I may talk about these things, which sometimes it's very scary. I know I drive around with my passport at all times in case I get pulled over and my children get pulled, and my children are with me, and I may be taken away from them for some unknown reason, without just cause or without any rhyme or reason other than because of who I am and my skin color. And so I think what we can really appreciate about this story is that it's a very American story, but it's also a story about struggle and solidarity. And while we may not have gotten it 100% right the first time was pretty successful. We need to continue trying that over and over again, no matter how painful it is. Like I said in the beginning, if you want to be part of the community, be prepared that your heart's going to break about 12 times or more. And you have to keep on going, though. You have to keep on going, and you have to support our leadership. Being a leader is not easy by any and all means. Running for an office is not easy. Being criticized daily is not easy. Trying to get movement on where we are politically or how we're making our communities better is not easy. So we must really, like in the case of Larry Itliong and the rest of our leaders currently, we must support. And what does that mean? You can either give financially, you could show up for events like this, you can support, other events where it's scary for people to even show up. And I think that where we're in fear of our rights, of our lives, who we love, and I think that kind of solidarity is definitely what this story is about, and it's going to be strengthened for the future audience. And last question?
Hi, thank you so much for your time. I wanted to ask a little bit more, going back to the point where you were speaking on how Paiz take up this culture bearer role in the community. I wonder, from your experience doing this play and your current work, what do you do when all of these feelings feel very heavy and there's a lot of grief? How do you find solace in all of the chaos?
I think in my life within community, honestly, like, folks, do not be scared of therapy. Do not be scared of counseling. Do not be scared of having that friend and telling them what's going on. Do not be scared of talking to family members about how they hurt you. And if that's never going to work for you and they're not going to listen, then you need to find somebody where you can process that grief, because it will take over. I think for the creation of this musical, like, I was very scared to add Dawn to it because I was scared I was going to jump off a cliff and, like, a theoretical cliff and not be able to claw my way back out. That was very scary, but I think you have to overcome that fear and know that you're not alone. And I think that could either be in therapy, that could be in counseling, it could be with loved ones, it could be with community. Honestly, like, Allison did so much for us when we created this musical, I could just cry. There was so much emotions going left and right with the grief, not only just losing Dawn, but really, losing Dawn, her research, the book that was supposed to be our community, our ancestors that we felt like should have gotten more justice, the current events, like, you could go down a deep rabbit hole of never coming back. Even just like losing Alex Edior, is it 2 years now? Like, I could cry about that. Losing Alex here from Delano, who really helped shape the telling of this story. Late nights at the diner with Alex and Roger, and 5 hours worth of tape recordings, and he's no longer here. It's like, there's so many times when people touch our hearts. There's so many times when we break our hearts in community work. but you have to keep going and you need to find what works for you. And so, honestly, just also remember, we're never alone here. We're never alone. Even leadership, sometimes it feels like you're alone when you're in community and you have to make hard choices. I hope everybody knows that you're not alone. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Gayle, for telling and sharing your stories with your book and musical. Again, please support the musical. Again, there's the discs that are available. And those of you who are in schools, tell the schools, hey, why don't we have this? That's how we support, okay? And if you're on your own, please support. And again, down the road, we want this musical in one form or another. So we need your support. The movement has begun to bring Larry the Musical to wherever, the Central Valley, Southern California, but we need your support. This marks the end of the bold step at the 60th anniversary of the Delano Grape strike. But before we leave, is Chris Matt here? Is Chris Matt here? Okay, come on. Yeah, there's a couple things you need to do with the things like we do. I think when we end a celebration, there's a couple things that we do. One of the things that happened, because I was part of a lot of the UFW protests and happened, they always sing a song at the end. Can you do that, Chris Matt? You got? Let me share the story. You're right there. I know we put the pressure on you, but let me share the story, okay? Yeah, I will say, when the song De Colores is associated with the United Farm Workers Union as one of the most heard songs during rallies. The song was chosen for UFW rallies as it symbolizes joy, unity, and a celebration of diversity. De Colores, of the different colors. It's a powerful anthem that's resonated with the worker spirit and the movement's goals. The song's melodic lines and vibrant imagery were perfect for the rally, the crowd, and creating a sense of community and purpose. Chris Matt, thank you for taking time.
Mic check. Well, I would like for everybody to come and join me. I know we've been sitting for quite a long time, so can we stand up and join me in the front over here? I think it's De Colores is such a powerful song that really unified not only the farm workers, but really two cultures, multiple cultures, and it was an honor for me to be able to write the Filipino lyrics, the Tagalog lyrics to De Colores with an organization that started in Rich Grove. So please pull up the lyrics, and then we're gonna sing the three verses in Spanish, and then if you allow me to, I will sing you the Tagalog lyrics that I was able to write last year. Please come closer. Come closer and join us up here in the very front. Don't be shy. We don't bite, promise. Ready? Do you all have your lyrics pulled up? Join me, okay, in singing. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera. De colores es el iris que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Verse 2. Canta el gallo con el kiri, 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 kiri. La gallina con el cara, 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 cara. Los polluelos con el pío, 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 pío. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. De colores brillantes y finos se viste la aurora. De colores son los 1000 reflejos que el sol atesora. De colores se viste el diamante que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Now for the Tagalog. Mga kulay ang siyang sumisibol sa ating kapaligiran. At makulay ang ibong sumisipol at nagliliparan. Mga kulay nitong bahaghari ay nagniningning. Sila nga ang humulit, pumukaw sa aking pag-ibig na ngayoy makulay. Sila nga ang humulit, pumukaw sa aking pag-ibig na ngayoy makulay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Maraming
you.
salamat.
Thank you, Chris Matt. That is so special. Okay. We always end with the unity clap. Arlene will lead it. The unity clap was organized by the United Farm Workers, which consisted of mostly Filipino and Latino farm workers. Due to the language barriers, many spoke little English or only spoke their native language. They needed a common way of communicating with each other. At the end of each day, the farm workers would start a unity clap. They would start off slowly, like a heartbeat, then increase in speed. The unity clap, the common heartbeat, symbolizes solidarity with their similar struggles and experiences. In unison, at the very end, and this is where we make the Filipino part, we say, Isang Bagsak, which in Tagalog means one down, before ending with a loud collective clap. So Arlene, get in the front.
Okay, here we go.
There you go, everybody. Slowly, ready.
Heartbeat. Okay, start off slow.
Thank you, everybody. Well, thank you for all that. And Arlene, she was excited. She had to do it.
Thank you so much.